Cause I don't give a fuck what you say. Yeah, I'ma do shit my way. So you can go kick rocks, I'ma stack bricks up, build what I want to make. Yo, I got a lot of shit to say, so I'ma do this every day. I'll be writing things until I'm fucking buried in my grave.
Modern facilities can now be found at the entrance immediately in front of the pyramid, including a cafeteria, souvenir shop, and restrooms. There's also a small museum and auditorium.
Checking audio now.
The site is open between 8 and 5 with a sound and light show presented in both English and Spanish every evening. There's also a small museum and auditorium.
Checking audio now.
Of the show. The site is open. Could any of these ancient stories be true? Or have a great
Good evening, everybody.
no, then these people will witness
It should be in both streams, right? That's what should be happening.
not
I should be in two streams now at once. I think that's what's happening.
and
I think what's happening is I'm in two streams
We
at
may
once.
never know the truth, but the monument.
Hey, Kelton.
If you send me a super chat,
And you can travel to Mexico.
oh, that's definitely not good. Definitely don't want that.
And see it for yourself.
Okay. Hold on. Let me
Good to see
see.
you, brother.
Okay. Okay. So what happened was I had two streams set up, and I started streaming to the wrong one. The later one is the one I jumped on. There's the following program, and then I jumped on and streamed. So anyhow, we're all good now. I'm streaming.
Copy Dios.
I'm just
Good to see you,
I'm
brother.
streaming everywhere.
Hell of a rumble.
Wow, that was terrible. That was really, really terrible.
Please, everybody.
Okay, we're all on the same page now. If you send me a super chat, I'm gonna be like looking like left and right because now I have two StreamYards open at the same time. I should really kill the other one. I'm gonna kill the first one. Let me kill the first one. Let me start this out. I'm just gonna kill that because it's not good. It's not good. All right, those of you who are still over on the following program, Trump goes off in South Africa president. I'm gonna reset that. But I'm gonna do this on the. All right, I'm just going forward. I'm ending that shit.
It has a substructure that likely was constructed several centuries earlier.
Good evening, everybody. You're probably a little confused. That's because of me. I did something very, very confusing. What I did was I streamed to the wrong place.
Who wants to play poker?
I had two StreamYards open. I started on the wrong one.
Working on that now.
One at 10:45, and I started streaming there instead of here where I was supposed to be at 9 o'clock. This is the Diddy stream. Let me start all over again. For those of you who are new to the Diddy world, which some of you may be, let me explain to you what happened today so you can appreciate what happened with the cross-examination and the entire fiasco that went down near the close of day 8 of the Diddy trial. Now, if you're following the Diddy trial, you're probably aware of the fact that there are 5 charges been brought against Sean Puffy Combs, Diddy, etc., aka PD, aka whatever. Those 5 charges include a RICO charge, 2 sex trafficking charges, and 2 charges for transporting folks interstate for purposes of engaging in illegal sexual encounters. Now, we'll put the last 2 aside. Forget about them. In fact, we'll put the RICO aside and focus exclusively on the sex trafficking, which is 18 U.S.C. 1591. Under that statute, which was initially designed to stop people from creating sex slaves, and it was designed to try and discourage that by saying if you get caught doing that, we're going to give you 15 years minimum and a life sentence maximum. The state alleges that Sean Puffy Combs violated that with respect to 2 different individuals, hence 2 different charges. One of those individuals is a woman by the name of Cassie Ventura. Cassie Ventura is his longtime model/musician girlfriend. In or around 2007, when she was roughly 21 years old, after she already had a hit song, Sean Combs decides he's going to sign Cassie Ventura to a 10-album deal with his production label Bad Boy Records, and she signs off and is thrilled about this. And the relationship quickly alters from being a business relationship to being a personal relationship, and the 2 of them start dating. She falls very hard for Sean Combs, and she ends up having an on and off relationship with him for 11 years. Roughly near the end of the first year, if not sooner, Sean admits to Cassie that he has this thing that he likes doing, and that thing is watching his girlfriend getting shellacked by other dudes while he sits and watches and directs. So he started, this is according to the testimony of Cassie, and this is according to the state. Testimony so far elicited is that she started engaging in what they would call freak-offs. She ended up, over the course of their on and off relationship for 11 years, engaging in hundreds of these freak-offs. The state alleges that these freak-offs are a violation of 18 U.S.C. 1591 because once he's paying the escort, that now turns it into commercial sex, and they are also alleging that she did it against her will. Those are the 2 key elements of 18 U.S.C. 1591. So that's what they need to prove that there was this commercial sex activity that he was fostering, and that he was, and really that he was forcing her to engage in. Now, if you heard the testimony of Cassie Ventura, who most people who had the privilege of hearing the testimony, and I would estimate that's fewer than 150 people on the planet, most of us who heard that testimony found her to be an incredibly believable witness. For a victim, she came forward and she just seemed very compelling and credible and believable. However, that's the good news for the state, because you need your star witness, who's the one who was allegedly trafficked, to sound credible. That's clearly a very important thing for the state. However, she also appeared very conflicted. She testified for 4 days, and midway through, when she was nearing the end, I was like, if she was asked whether or not she wanted to have sex with these men, I don't know what she would say. She seemed very conflicted. During the course of their relationship, according to Cassie's testimony, he started filming them, and not only filming them, but what would happen is she would go and they would have these marathon sex sessions, which initially were going for a couple of hours, then for 7 hours, then for 10 hours, then like regularly for days. And a freak off only ends when Diddy says a freak off is over. Keeps going. No one's allowed to stop. Not Cassie, not the performer. So, this is according to the testimony of Cassie so far and two experts, two escorts who have testified. Although the second escort, the Punisher, didn't seem like that his freak-offs were nearly as lengthy as the first one. The first guy, Daniel, he was testifying that sometimes he would wait for hours. Why is he waiting? Because they would have multiple sessions, and a session is defined as the dude finishing. Dude finishes, but he couldn't just finish. They would have to just go through this like slow motion type of sexual activity practically, and if they started going too fast, and he would get close to finishing, Diddy would direct him to slow down. Make it take longer. And when he finally would finish, once, twice, Diddy would take Cassie frequently into a private room. It's a suite in a hotel. Take her into a private room and then spend time one-on-one with her in there. She testified about some of the stuff they did in there, and it's rather unsettling. But she really treasured her Diddy time. She fell very hard for Diddy. She clearly, and so much so that she was willing to degrade herself for Diddy. When she was talking about a relationship, she talks about the honeymoon period and then the start of the freak-offs and how she initially was doing this for Diddy. She wanted to do it for him. But over time, we start seeing the relationship become more and more abusive, physically abusive, him punching her out, hitting her so hard. There's a famous video from 2016 of him yanking her and throwing her to the floor and kicking at her and then starting to drag her.
This is crazy, isn't it?
Horrific videos.
This guy actually is covering this shit hard.
See the pictures and not think to themselves, this guy treats women monstrously. The question is whether or not these freak-offs, though, were against her will, because she seems somewhat conflicted. But it's not simply the physical violence. There's talk of the financial control, that he's controlling her allowance. He's taking care of her house. He's taking care of her car. He's overseeing her career. He's forcing her to make music and never releasing them. And she only gets paid if it gets released. So by not releasing any songs while making her work harder and harder for years, producing songs, the state wants us to conclude that he was controlling her money, making it impossible for her to get away. And sometimes when she would talk about the abuse, she would say that she talked to someone, she's like, how does anyone ever get out of this situation? How is it possible to get out of this situation? Where would I go? This is my whole world. Where would I go? Sometimes in the middle of freak-offs, he would punch her out. He would drag her around by her hair. This is according to her testimony. And again, most people who watch her testimony found it to be fairly credible. But you're still left with a whole bunch of questions. And those questions include things like this. Why do you keep going back to him? She says it's an on and off relationship. She had another boyfriend in 2011, Kid Cudi, who's supposed to be testifying tomorrow. That's right. Kid Cudi is supposed to be testifying tomorrow. The whole courtroom is in a buzz about this. And that she's supposed to, and
associated with the pyramids.
That he's using violence. He's threatening her, according to her. They threaten that she doesn't listen to him, doesn't do what he wants. That he's going to release some of the videos, which she said she found to be humiliating. Those videos, she hated that they were out there. She's continually trying to get rid of them. Whenever he would film them from her phone, she said she would delete them. As soon as she would see them, that was according to her. Well, anyhow. But a lot of people had questions. You got questions. Why are you going back to him? And the way that and her memory would seem a little hazy sometimes. It did. Sometimes. And apparently her memory got better and better leading up to trial.
Originally, this was believed to be a natural.
At one point, she wrote it in a book. She wrote a book, and then she came to him and said, I want you to pay me $30 million for the rights to this book. And he said, GFY. And she went to her civil attorney, filed a lawsuit for $30 million for the damages that he did to her. And the next day, Diddy's lawyers came and said, we'll give you $20 million, go away. And they said, okay. So she got her $20 million from Diddy, and then she sued the Intercontinental and got $10 million. Which means that, as far as we see, whatever financial damages she thinks she's entitled to, she has gotten her $30 million. Now, but when she was asked about that during her testimony, and this comes up today, not directly, but by reference, and I'll point out that reference. It comes up today in the sense that she said, when she was asked, would she give the money back to have never lived this? And she said, I would give anything back to get back my agency. Which I thought was a very unusual way to phrase it. I don't remember ever referring to my own agency. I don't remember ever in my life referring to my own agency. I thought she would just say, absolutely, for sure. It was a very strange turn of phrase. But that term, as far as agency, came up today with Dr. Dawn Hughes on the stand. Now, many of you may remember Dr. Dawn Hughes, and she was the expert witness in the Diddy trial. She was the one who testified again on behalf of Amber Heard.
So, who were the Volcanoes?
On behalf of Amber Heard, saying that she was a victim of domestic violence in the hands of Johnny Depp.
We do not know what the
she was skewered somewhat in her testimony, and one of the lines of attack that the Depp attorneys used on her is that whenever she's addressing something, she always finds domestic violence, and it's always the woman who's the victim, as if there's no such thing as a man who ever suffers from domestic violence, even though statistically that's just not the reality. With that in mind, she takes the stand today, and I'm going to tell you that her direct testimony that she gave this morning was very effective, in that a lot of what she said tracked some of the language that Cassie was giving when she was providing her testimony. In other words, it was almost like you could check off boxes. You could check off boxes as to what she's covering. So with that in mind, well, let me give you a reminder. So when she walks up there, and I didn't even recognize her, because again, on these screens are very small. They're very, very small screens. So I did not recognize her when she first came up there. I was like, rings a bell. And all day long, I watched her, and I totally forgot that the woman who was testifying in front of me all day testifying in front of me,
is the oldest and largest of the pyramids in the Giza Plaza complex, bordering
is this woman.
Giza in Greater Cairo. Egypt.
I'm going to refer to my list of documents. It is a 4-page.
The only one to remain
Dr. Curry, Dr. Hughes,
I don't know why
try to answer to the best of your ability. Just let us know you're consulting your notes, okay? Concern is that you not read from them, okay?
You can reference your notes, just don't read. Okay.
Yeah, no problem. Okay, great.
Please tell the jury who Dr. Bonnie Jacobs is.
So Dr. Bonnie Jacobs was Miss Heard's therapist. May I refresh my recollection with my notes, Your Honor?
She's allowed to
For the
consult your
dates?
notes. Yes, you may consult your notes, yes.
Objection, Your Honor.
Basic tools boggles the mind, as there are
So I am going to refer
That's
to my
her.
designation that has the
That's
list so
her.
that I don't forget.
That's the woman. That's her right there.
There's also signs.
So I administered,
Objection, hearsay, Your Honor.
You just can't read, that you're not supposed to read from it, but you can refresh your recollection as you're speaking.
what Miss Heard did to Mr. Depp. So it was asking about both sets of behavior. And what
Objection, Your Honor.
Chronological.
We're back to reading.
Archaeological
All right, Dr. Hughes, anything that you looked at, referenced during your direct examination, if you could just turn that over so they can review that before cross-examination, okay? All right, thank you, ma'am.
I presume she wants to be able
Penny
to
was good. It's great.
take that back with her.
We can
and review
get
it.
copies of it. We'll get
could be much.
whatever it is,
Okay.
we'll make
Hey,
sure we
Brandon.
get copies of it so she can keep her originals.
Hey,
Yes.
Hunger Game is
All
set
I have
up.
copies of everything that I looked at.
No,
Other,
no, we're
Trying
not
to find the
talking right
link
now.
here.
Of course, it's
other
actually.
than my,
All right. Well, anyhow, that's Dr. Hughes there. And she was testifying in front of me today. And again, on direct, she was very good. And she comes out there and she says that she's a clinical and forensic psychologist and that she specializes in treating trauma. She's been doing this for 30 years. She's got a private clinical practice. I'm not going to need the headphones the rest of the show. Let's lose that.
And without any
And that she is part of the American Psychologists Association and victims of trauma, violence, abuse, and she's part of the voluntary faculty at Cornell, and that she in addition she does forensic work where she gives comprehensive psychological assessments in order to assess whether or not someone is psycho or has been psycho as a result of trauma from domestic violence. And I want to, before I go any further, I am going to pause and get this out of the way, because invariably, if I talk about something like this, there are some people out there, men or women, who are victims of domestic violence. And if you are a victim of domestic violence, that is not at all a joke. And I'm certainly not going to be making jokes about anyone who's actually suffering from that, man or woman, because it's terrible. And I urge you to please find the strength to get help. So no one should take anything I'm saying or any critique I make of Dr. Hughes during this stream as in any way trivializing the significance of domestic violence, which is a far more rampant issue and problem in our society than most of us may realize. So again, if you are a victim, my heart goes out to you sincerely 100%, and I urge you to do whatever you can to get help. Call hotlines and don't think you can get out. Okay? Don't be Cassie. Don't be Cassie, because Cassie was just beaten emotionally, physically,
in the case of the Native American mounds,
psychologically beaten all the time. It's terrible. And finally, thank God, she was able to get out of that situation. Finally, after dealing with it on and off for 11 years. No human should ever have to go through that. So if you find yourself in that situation, I beg of you, please try to find help, no matter how terrible or how hopeless it seems. That being said, let's go forward. Now that I got that, I need to check that off so everyone understands my position in general about domestic violence. And if you are someone who's beating someone, get help, okay? Because you're destroying multiple lives. You're destroying your own life. You're consumed with your own hatred and self-hatred, and you need to get help because what you're doing is ultimately evil. All right, getting back to Dr. Hughes and her specialty. She says that she specializes in interpersonal violence, which in the DEP trial she called IPV. She never really used that term today. And she's treated thousands, and she's board certified, and 30 years. And she says, been previously qualified 65 times to testify at trial. Have you ever not been qualified when you came to appear at a trial? No. Every time I'm qualified. So at this time, we request that the state will qualify her as an expert in domestic violence. Any objection? Nope. Go for it. Okay, you are hereby qualified. When a witness is qualified as an expert witness, it changes the entire nature of their testimony. First and foremost, in discovery, there's a lot of pre-steps that have to be done before trial whenever you're proposing an expert witness. An expert witness is nothing like a normal witness. It's different in multitude of ways. First and foremost, an eyewitness is only allowed to testify about things that they know, things they saw with their own two eyes. That's what you're testifying about. That's hence the phrase eyewitness. What did your eye? The mouth speaks what the eye saw. That's eyewitness. I saw it, now I'm speaking about it. In stark contrast, an expert is not talking about what they saw or any facts relevant to this case. But it's particularly in a criminal proceeding when you're talking about an expert of this nature. They're not even allowed to know what happened. The objective in putting them up there on the stand, the reason you put them there is to facilitate that the jury should understand a complex area of science or something else, but in this, it's the social sciences or psychological sciences that they can understand how people think, act, and what is customary and normal. We should anticipate and expect that we will see a battle of the psychological experts. I can tell you right now that we will get a psychological expert from Diddy's side, who will sit there and try and refute what Dr. Hughes talked about today. We know that's happening. There's even reference to it being forthcoming during Dr. Hughes' testimony. Now, as an expert witness, you can opine, you can give your own opinion, you can speculate, you can take much broader. And in this case, she's not allowed to talk about things that she's seen relevant to this case. That's taboo. That's what I mean when I say it's the exact opposite. Let me get this out of the way. Joe, man. I was taking a shower this morning, washing my Diddy, and I realized I can't do this for 14
Thank you, Brandon. Hey, Brandon, try and grab everybody else that you know from whatever way you know.
Hot water, no problem. How can someone do this? Help. I don't have answers for you. I'm sorry. Worcestershire! How ignorant must prosecution be to have Amber Heard useless court therapist? Stupid DA. It's so good to see you, Worcestershire. So good to see you. An actual.
It's going to be a minute,
of
so
the following. She is
may reach out to a couple places.
true. These mistakes don't happen. You're failing our entertainment expectations. Boomerism is expected. He's referring to the fact that I started on the wrong stream. I don't know how that happened. I mean, I know how it happened. I just can't believe I did that. All right. So she gets qualified. She is now an expert witness. The first thing she explains, and I thought that the lawyer was struggling, and I'm very surprised, and I'll tell you this, the lawyer was Marie Comey, and she seems to struggle. She seemed to struggle today. I'm not going to kid you. Certainly during the direct testimony, in ways I don't recall ever seeing her struggle. Just a lot of things that she was questioned, she would ask, objection, sustained. She was dealing with that a lot. I saw more chinks in her armor today than I remember seeing in the multitude of times I've watched her handle direct and cross combined. This was a terrible day for her. Although she had some strong stuff on redirect. We'll see. I want you to know the fireworks that come start really when we get to the cross, but also on the redirect, and then also on the recross. It's back and forth of fireworks. You're going to enjoy it. Stick it out with me, trust me. I'll try to work my way through the direct a little bit faster so we can make up some time and get through this efficiently. Okay? All right, so let me work my way through the direct relatively quickly, because that's stuff you need for background to understand what's happening here, and then we'll savor. We'll spend more time savoring the cross. All right. So she says she's a blind expert, meaning I haven't looked at any facts. I am not examining the facts in this case. What I know is an overview of what's been happening here, but I don't know the parties. I've never met with them. I've never sat with them. I'm just here to give a lecture, like a seminar to the jury as to what it's like to be part of domestic violence. And the 4 areas she said she's coming to testify is, number 1, why do they stay? Why don't they leave? That's first and foremost. Secondly, their coping methods. What are normal coping methods for someone who's dealing with the trauma of suffering through domestic violence for an extended period of time? Number 3, how do they tend to discuss the relationship? What methods and what format and how does it tend to come out? Number 4, and finally, their memory. How it affects, how prolonged trauma like this affects the memory. Those are the 4 things she said she's going to testify. All right. But she said that someone who conducts domestic violence is trying to instill fear and control. Objection, non-responsive, on and on. So many times. Every time there would be a question from Comey, it's like she would ask one question, and we would get a 7-paragraph answer from Hughes, that she just start going
Round them up, Brandon. I've sent out messages everywhere.
The lawyer, Niflio, was like, this is not responsive. There's no question. She's just talking about other stuff. Sustained over and over again. Those objections were sustained. And that's what I mean when I say she looked like she was really struggling. It just looked like it was a little bit out. It was helter-skelter and out of control. All right. She said she was retained by the government and that she gets paid $600 per hour, $6,000 per day. Okay. Why do people stay in abuse? They don't want to be abused. They're aware of the abuse, and even strong people can be abused. Objection. This is not responsive. She asked, why do people stay in abuse? And you start describing who stays in abuse. Oh, okay. Why they stay. Number 1, it's not just about the hitting, but it makes them feel trapped. So there's an emotional element to it. They feel that they're trapped and they can't get out. Number 2, they tend to have a love and attraction for their abuser. And that paired with the abuse makes it hard for them to leave. Number 3, the abuser creates psychological issues and restricts their higher order planning. What is that? Well, that's what you need in order to actually formulate a plan. So if they're going to leave, they have to figure out, okay, I can't just walk out the door. I have to go somewhere 10 minutes later. So because of their abuse, they just can't even, they're not in a state of mind that they can engage in the higher order planning that's required to lead. So as a result, when they get, she said, when they get hit, and I was like, hit? It's just hit. Past, it's not like smitten. When they get hit, when we get hit, we feel fear. We walk on eggshells to avoid getting hurt. And the fear, she says, is different levels of fear. Low level fear is like when you get butterflies in your stomach, when you're nervous about meeting someone. High level fear are thoughts like, oh my gosh, I'm going to die. She said, when we have high level fear, we can't process properly. And then people who are engaging in regular abuse.
Yeah, I realize that. I'm reaching out to everybody.
Abuse, are dealing with high level fear, but it even could be psychological abuse.
Send them personal messages.
High level
we need to get a game tonight.
How do threats play into that? They say threats can be as impactful as violence.
I want this to be a game.
And it's playing into the fear.
I wish I had Boss's number.
Talked to us about psychological violence. Violence. She said that's intimidation.
I sent it to Discord. I sent it to.
And they said, talked to us about psychological distress. What does that mean? So she said that's PTSD. It's trying to keep safe and you're not able
to process everybody
how to escape because you're just every time something happens, you're so edgy because you're afraid that you're going to get smacked, either emotionally with some comment about "Wow, you're really fat today," or like a physical slap across the face.
Yeah.
So either type of conduct.
I don't remember how to share the link.
Really, what a-holes do is designed to just sort of keep them continually edgy. And then it's actually purposeful. How does sexual abuse play in? Also PTSD and a high degree of psychological abuse. What prevents them from leaving? So she said shame, humiliation, degradation, and you can't talk about it to get help because you feel so embarrassed by the situation that you can't go and talk about it. What about emotional abuse? So she said that's when someone gets demeaned or degraded, and it ends up putting them in a sense of depression.
I'll see how I'll get sure.
Give up trying because they feel a hopelessness about their situation.
I know, Brennan.
About financial abuse.
So she said, me and you then.
Each of us need resources to live, and if you don't have tangible resources like housing or transportation or access to a laptop, you can't go anywhere. You're stuck there. Now, this was part of what played in very well to what Cassie was saying, because she's like, where can I go? How can I go anywhere? He pays for my house. I have no money. He pays for my house. He pays for my car. He pays for my phone. How am I supposed to go anywhere? So I was like, okay, that's really tracking very neatly to what she said, and that's very helpful for the state.
Negative ions enhance the oxygen intake of the human body and through that strengthen well-being. Meditating under a pyramid or just taking a nap under a pyramid helps to synchronize the 7 chakras of the body. Many people experience feelings ranging from calmness to extreme euphoria during their meditation sessions inside a pyramid.
Then she said, how these factors interact. She said they all interact and work in different times. Sometimes
there you go, girl.
The financial stress. Sometimes
we got another one. Hey, girl.
Different things will play on the victim's mind at different times. How severe and the longer the duration of the abuse is.
So 3, 4 actually, because girl always.
What about periods of positivity and neutrality from the abuser? So this was an interesting thing because there was a lot of talk from Cassie about how there were many times that during their relationship that he would be really, really nice to her and just, flattering her and lavishing her with gifts. And Dr. Hughes was saying that's part of the control. that they'll give that carrot type of thing intentionally because they want to keep you under their control, particularly when they think that there's a
Need
threat
one
of
more.
you leaving. So there's a threat of you going. They want to entice you and remind you
Hey.
of the honeymoon days when everything was all
We'll
lovey-dovey.
see.
So they, in order to do
It
that,
gets
so they
down to a
start
couple
acting
minutes.
very
Bring
sweet,
her in.
and that's part of
I mean,
the
I want to
control.
play.
It's not that they're just nice now. It's like that's part of
Then
them
I gotta work
controlling.
tomorrow. So
And she said that basically, and I thought this
See what
was a
you can
great
do to
comment
bring
that she
people in,
made.
girl.
So they'll go through a cycle of abuse. Will be sometimes love, and then sometimes abuse. And it ends up feeling like there's a slot machine. And one of the reasons that they'll stay is because they'll feel like, okay, I'm hoping I'm going to get lucky that today is going to be a good day, and that they're going to
birthday
be
bourbon.
and they're going to be nice to me today. And it's like playing a slot machine as to like, most of the time you end up the loser. But so many times you're sitting there, people will still get addicted and go back to the slot machine. And I thought that was a really great analogy that she provided there. She said the good feeling of winning love, and it's a very so it creates a very powerful bond.
The big players.
Because those good times are so treasured.
I know I haven't
That
played
it
much lately,
creates
but
what
I'm
she ends
waking
up
up.
describing and calling it a trauma bond, a trauma bond. That because of the trauma, when you're nice to them, they feel so happy and so connected
So what?
that it's like a high
Jeff?
they can't
And
get somewhere else.
We need players. That's all.
That they're just like,
Get in it.
he's finally showing me love. So she
Under the
referred
link.
to that as trauma bond and said that could be stronger than than a bond people will feel on a day-to-day basis in a healthy relationship. And she said it can explain to us what love bombing is, and she said love bombing is like
Tiff.
the honeymoon phase when they're trying to leave and you shower them with love and gifts. And that's why it ends up taking multiple attempts to leave. Most people who leave, don't get out. They'll end up going back over and over again. Again, this was very consistent with what we heard from Cassie, that she's dating Diddy today, and then she's not, and then she's leaving him and running away and going back to her mother, and and crying about how abusive he is and how he's blackmailing her, and then she's right back with him the next week or 2 days later. How she's in South Africa filming a movie, and she says, give me any calls from him. I don't want to hear from him. Don't mention his name. And then she'll come back home, and she goes right back into the relationship. And let's do a pre-call.
Anna's in there. All right.
So
cool.
that was all very
That's fucking
consistent
awesome.
with her testimony.
I don't see her in there
All
yet,
of this
but
was very, very
cool.
consistent.
I miss Anna.
Let me take care of something really quick here just to make sure that.
The question now is, could a previous civilization have left a few monuments that did survive for our
Okay.
drug discovery, and that inspired them to create pyramids? Or could some of the oldest pyramids...
Yeah, we still got 30 minutes left, or
So
25.
they end up going to a pattern of return and reconciliation for love or attention, and part of the reason that they'll go back is because they'll be like, it's not working. He's still following me. He's still there. He's still calling. He's still contacting me through my friends. I'm not free of him.
Well, you're in
I
a
might
different
as well
Discord
go
than
back.
me because I'm not.
All of this was basically,
Which is
you could
okay.
hear Cassie's voice in your head just talking about like how she's like, I'll never get free of him,
I already
or
closed
he
it
keeps
up.
calling, or
I
his
don't have the
coworker
Discord app on my
is coming
computer.
over
I
to
just
me
had
and
a
telling me Diddy wants to see you. Where are you? And that no
browser
matter what
open.
she does, she can't get free.
because he got mad.
So like I said, I thought this went a long way towards filling in some of the questions that we had about why is Cassie doing what
Of course,
Cassie
she
is
always
doing.
saves the game.
Almost like you're
She
in a
always
horror
saves the
movie,
game.
and you're watching and she's telling the story over and you're screaming, don't go back and don't go in the pool, don't go in the
She's only got
pool,
3
don't go in the pool.
registered, though.
Why are you in the pool? I told you not to go in the pool. That's what you felt like when you're listening to Cassie. Like, why stay away from the dinner. Stay away. Now you're doing freak. Why? Also they talked
No,
about
no, he's mad. Who got
drugs.
mad?
Drugs are another method of trying to keep them hooked.
and its adjacent 3 massive
Oh, yeah,
terraces.
everybody
Said
got
that,
mad.
The stones used
which we know that was going on.
are
She wasn't using drugs before Diddy, and she started using drugs with him. It was just this cycle of awful, just a cycle of awful.
I have some
She
birthday
talked about
bourbon
coping mechanisms.
working tonight.
So she said there's formal and informal. I want you to remember what I'm saying now. Just pause and just listen, because this comes up in a hilarious way on the fence. She says in coping, there's formal and informal methods. What are formal? Well, formal is when you go to outside help. You go to the police or human resources or a clinical psychologist or some other healthcare provider, and you say, I need help in this situation. And what's informal? Informal is when you talk to family or friends, you get support or get them to talk to the abuser and say, hey, can you stop hitting her? And then there's also personal, which is when you talk to the abuser directly, try and placate, and sometimes even fighting back.
Wish you could get friends of code in here.
Trying to get the abuse.
Friends of code needs to
Most
join this
commonly
game.
used is personal, where people hope for change and return to the honeymoon phase. And she said people use different strategies
Oh,
at different
17th
times,
was
and they
my
use
birthday.
more coping as there's more abuse heaped on. She also said a common theme is apologizing and going along with things that we
Frank
don't want to
got
do.
arrested.
Placating and compliance. Placating and compliance, which this seems to basically be saying, you mean like doing freak-offs and having sex with strangers for like 2 days at a time. Yeah. She didn't ask that because Dr. Hughes is not supposed to know anything about this case. But we could all hear that in our heads. Like, oh, okay, I can understand compliance. That's what we saw from Cassie. What about placating and sexual facet? It's really in all facets. If you can't say no to little things, it's hard to imagine they have agency to say no sexually. There's that agency word. Look at that.
Recently, 17 lost pyramids.
It's hard to imagine they have agency to say no to sexual sexual requests. And as soon as she used that word agency, I'm like, this is the second time I'm hearing this word agency, and I've never heard anyone use it in this form before. And I was like, she's really tracking the language here. Like, wow. And I wondered, maybe Cassie got that in therapy? The concept of reacquiring her agency? It's just such a weird thing to say. I actually asked Lady Logic this. I was like, she's like, I don't even know what it means. I said, it's used to say control over your own life. She's like, I never heard that before. I don't think people don't talk that way. They just don't talk that way.
Less than a meter in diameter in the Earth's surface. Infrared
Am I crazy?
is used to highlight every
Am I crazy for thinking that?
The doctor pinpointed 3 potential pyramids, so they may test evacuations. And now
Happy
it
freedom.
is one of the most important
I need to.
archaeological sites.
So yeah,
The doctor said the most
that was all.
was visiting the excavations of Tanis. He had excavated a 3,000-year-old house.
Wish Bob was-
Yeah,
That
that
was
was what she
live.
gave us this morning. Was there more? Oh, there was more. I gotta fly through more of this direct. So she said there's passive self-dependence and blocking and what's passive self-defense? That's blocking or curling in a ball to avoid severe injury. And when she's talking about this, you can picture Cassie curling in a fetal position while Diddy's kicking her. If you saw the video of the Intercontinental that I was airing here last night, you get the picture of like, yeah, okay, that's passive self-defense. It's opposed to active, which is physically fighting back, and use a lot of strategies, both passive and active. Then there's avoidance strategies, which is not thinking, or dissociative, not dealing. I'll deal with it later. Dissociative. There's a word which
Who's this
Cassie
guy?
uses
This is
all the
Joe.
time. She
Joe
said that
Niederman.
one of the reasons she
Let me,
wanted to
drop
use
his,
ketamine when she was engaging in this freak off
he's a
is
good
because
guy,
it had a
man.
dissociative effect on her. That she goes out of her
He's
body
doing
and
the
she's
Diddy
not
trial right
experiencing
now,
it,
but
which is another sign that she's not
very
really
good
complying.
stuff.
That she's doing what she feels she has to do. You don't do something you have to do and then try and just and try and like blot it from your brain.
This shape and design was
About substance abuse, well, that's to numb the pain and alter the experience. Preventive, it can be preventative. I'm going to take drugs to avoid the psychological pain of what's coming when he gets home. but the victims sometimes express a great deal of love. Yes, that's part of the trauma bond. Even years after, they'll express great love for their abuser. Even years after they get away, they'll often express great love for their abuser.
Or even technology.
Which is like I said, everything here, it was filling all the questions we had. Why is it she seems so conflicted when she's on the stand? Why is it she seemed like, to me, that she would just as soon have Diddy over for dinner next week as send him away for the next 50 years? And all of this was being answered by Dr. Dawn Hughes on Direct. What about disclosure? Well, it's not common for a victim to disclose soon after the abuse. Abuse is a fear of not being believed, or the shame of being embarrassed, and also the economic change they may be facing, or a change in their relationship that they might not feel ready for. And the closer they are to the perpetrator, the less likely
we still have
they
a
are
few
to
minutes
disclose
for the
anyone.
game.
What if the abuser,
we need some more people.
is a perceived authority
keep
figure?
reaching
Well,
up.
that would just amplify their power and make it less likely to disclose because they don't feel anywhere they go is going to be safe. And again, all of this was just neatly packaging as if she was talking about Cassie, but didn't know Cassie went through this. It's designed to make us feel as if what we saw from Cassie is what we should be seeing from someone in this circumstance.
Pyramids of all sizes can be found in the Middle East, Asia, Europe.
Often, when they start to disclose who they go to, a trusted friend, a mother, a sister.
Modern technology is not the pinnacle on achievements.
And then they said they disclose piecemeal, not getting in one sitting. There's too much trauma and pain, and it comes back slowly. And they'll try to minimize
Did you see?
the terribleness of it, distancing themselves from being, because they don't want themselves to label themselves a victim, and they don't want to label their attacker as being abusive, which is, you can picture Cassie again. She never told her mother at all. She was just like distancing from it and pretending, it's not that bad. And the only thing to get past that is years of therapy. And then to talk about hedging language is when they start getting therapy, they'll refer to it not as that time they were getting beaten, but they'll say, when that thing happened. Let's talk about memory. Okay, so the trauma impacts memory, vivid memory. You'll have vivid memory with lack of detail. And it cuts across different trauma groups. Doesn't matter whether it's domestic violence or military or police. People who go through a difficult trauma, they tend to have vivid memory of this and all the stuff around it. One nugget, and the stuff around it will just be a complete haze. But the core part they'll remember, central details. And sometimes they'll have a central detail which has nothing.
I'm pretty tired too, dude.
Nothing that's that big a deal. Like they'll focus on something in the moment. While they're getting beaten, they'll just be staring at curtains in the window, and they'll just remember the curtains in the window because they're trying to dissociate when they're going through the physical or emotional pain. And sometimes people do it consciously, that they'll focus on something. Sometimes it's unconscious, that they don't even realize they're doing. They're just sort of
we're at 4.
Lack of complete. You'll see a lack of completeness, but that does not mean that what they're testifying about
Someone
is
can reach out to
reliable.
boss.
This is a big thing because you want the jury to believe
Boss would be live if
Sometimes they'll deliberately try not to remember because it's too painful.
I was live.
And that's called, there's directed forgetting, which is they intentionally try to forget, or dissociating, which is involuntary. And the frequency, they say that chronic trauma events keep memories from forming and repeated events blend together. So Cassie would be like, oh yeah, I got hit all the time. Well, can you tell us about sometimes? No. Why?
No, I'm actually a whole lot better than I was,
Dr.
dude.
Hughes used is, I can tell you that I've been to my favorite pizza place 40 times. but I can't remember the 27th time because it all just starts blending together.
I'm a whole lot better than I was. I wouldn't even be live if I was that sick.
She said, but trauma doesn't stay in the background. It eventually will come out.
Feeling better.
And explain what hypervigilance is. Hypervigilance is scanning for danger, bringing characterization of being in the moment. And they say you can recall that they can have trauma get recalled by various cues. It can be a sight, a smell, a sound, the way someone laughs, and all of a sudden it'll just give a flashback to them, which will just trigger the trauma that's been buried in their head.
Is a hypothesis in pyramidology. Its central claim.
And there you go.
There is a
That's what we got from. All right, no further questions. Now we got our whole lecture seminar as to the mindset of a DV
and that this correlation
victim.
was intended
And
by the pyramid
let's start the cross. So Agniflio is like,
years ago. The Orion
let's get into the cross. Are you ready for the cross? You ready for the cross? This part was still before lunch. He said, you sit in an office
We
and
have
talk to
enough.
people at length.
I mean,
Yes.
even if
Pay
you don't
attention
bring your
to
other one in.
detail. Yes,
but
your manners,
still.
their manner of speaking. Yes.
I wish there was
The detail could be important. And I wouldn't say any detail, but some details are. It could be. Your experience taught you to listen closely. Yes. You wouldn't diagnose without listening to everything in your clinical practice. That's correct. Comprehensive. You're looking at a lot of things at a time. Yes. Both clinical and forensic, yes. And the approach of this guy, Agniflio, is very, very interesting.
Same.
I mentioned this once or twice.
I was at
before.
Westboro
He can
last
be very
2 weeks.
charming.
I was
And when
whispering.
he's talking, he's just sort of like laid back, like almost like he's trying to learn.
Every time I tried to
At
speak
first, I
outside,
wasn't crazy about his style,
whisper,
but
it
I'm
was
growing to
horrible.
appreciate it more. I am growing to appreciate it more and more. I'm not going to kid you. Someone referred to his style, someone I was talking to, as being like a submarine attack. Like you don't see it coming. You don't see it coming, and all of a sudden, boom, he's there. And I think that's a good way of describing him. I think that's a pretty good way of describing him. So, moving forward, he said, when forensic is context of legal system, yes. And over there, you're going to be very careful because it's going to be reviewed by courts and lawyers. Well, not because, but yeah, I will be careful. And for forensic, you're going to go to many other sources. Yes. In forensic setting, you listen to what the people say. Well, it's much more than that. Well, in forensic setting, the person may have motivations, right? For what they say. Yeah. And you'll approach with skepticism. Yeah. Maybe do a deeper dive beyond just hearing what they say. Yes. And a witness reports. When you look at witness reports, you look at police reports. Yeah. Psychological testing. Different tests were developed by experts. There's a lot of different psychological tests, right? Yeah. And you rely on those tests. Well, a multi-method that I use. Are you familiar with malingering? What malingering is? You know what malingering is? Yes. So, can you tell us what that is? It's like exaggerating? No, it's not exaggerating. It's fabricating a symptom, an emotional symptom.
We're live. Welcome to Lies You Can Trust, my beautiful, freedom-loving friend. This is where we like to pull back the veil of deception to expose what's really going on in the world, to help spread the light of truth and freedom. Because here at the station, we believe truth conquers. Yeah. I hope you're having a good day. Today, we've got some newsworthy items. President Biden, former President Biden, just received a cancer diagnosis. It has spread as though he's had cancer for many years. We'll cover the ins and outs of that. Is there any deception in the story? When isn't there deception in his stories? You be the judge. Certainly, my heart goes out to him for the diagnosis. My heart doesn't go out to him for about everything else he's ever done. Hey, former FBI Director James Comey called for the assassination of President Trump. People are taking that out of context. just interpreting his words with the meaning of his words, big misunderstanding. We'll cover the ins and outs of that as well. By the way, speaking of killing President Trump over the weekend, something. I wish he would have. I'm glad he didn't. Posted a video all about Hillary Clinton's body count, shining some light on her potential
9
criminal
minutes,
murderous
guys.
activity.
We need more people.
Why did Trump do that? We'll get into that. The WNBA has some controversy, ladies and gentlemen. I know you inherently don't care about the WNBA. I don't either. And I know that you don't care about it because nobody does. But when you look at the poop show that goes on within this, I don't know if it's considered a sports league or just like a DEI initiative. The drama of that is funny. The failure of the WNBA is hilarious. So we will cover some insider stories. They're not insider at all. We'll take a look at some people acting like idiots. Also contemplate the question, has Dan Bongino changed since becoming, deputy director of the FBI, assistant regional manager of Dunder Mifflin? Whatever his title is. We'll get into all that and more, and we'll start with some absurdities momentarily. But first, I want to, on behalf of America, I want to personally thank you for tuning in to Lies You Can Trust. If I haven't told you for a long time, for a while, I appreciate you watching my work. I really do.
Look at he has
It means a lot. You help me.
outside straps.
You help me.
Snap it.
I should just leave it at that. More importantly, it's a way of supporting the collective mission that we're all on, which I think is to help awaken humanity to follow the guidance of their own thinking, their own hearts. And if we didn't know any better, our God-given brains and our God-given
I
hearts
haven't seen Bob.
are our connection to
Exactly.
God. And if we can follow it, do our own thinking and follow our hearts, I dare say we're bringing more God into
Bob's
this world.
live.
So
I'd
that's,
be
of course, the
showing up
mission,
right now.
and I appreciate you supporting it in all the ways that you do, including watching the stuff that I put out. And this is a piece of the stuff
I don't think it's bad, but
exclusive here on Rumble. Because it's Tuesday, I will celebrate with a carbonated bubbly water. Blackberry lemonade. It tastes nothing close to blackberry nor lemonade, but it's good. So, and hey, to y'all in the chat, thank you for being on. Trucker Hershey, thank you for the 97 comments you've already left. I love it. Hello back at you. Bitcoin 106. Yeah, I like that. I saw yesterday Bitcoin was at 105. I didn't know it was at 106 now. That makes me grateful for the JP of 4 years ago. Man, it was just almost exactly 4 years ago that I started buying Bitcoin. So that's gone good. Love thy neighbor. Thank you. And you're hecka funny. I appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you. No more compliments. No more compliments. Just insults. Just insults. It validates my shame that I have unresolved from childhood. Bongino can only report on the information they fabricated for him. I agree. Yeah, but conveying that
All right, we're gonna fight
information
people
that's
now.
reported to him as though it's
Again.
factual. So yeah, I looked at Epstein.
6 minutes. Come on.
Looked at
We
the
need
file.
boss.
Killed himself. Why do you
We
believe
need
the
real
file
players in here.
would?
We
Why
need
would they
Matt. What the fuck?
document
Matt was
crimes?
just in.
Of course, the file says it.
Matt was
killed
just in
himself.
Friends and Codes.
But anyway, well, I digress. We'll get into that. I'm not holding a grudge against Dan Bongino. I just have a question or two. All right. And I'm not saying if I was in a position of power, I would be doing anything
Actually, I
different.
think I have his number.
I'd like to think that I would be not just like, oh, I believe in the file. I like to think that I'm as corrupt as possible within 3.5 days of being in office. It's like, yeah, I got in this position because I'm a freedom lover. I love America, and people deserve the truth. They deserve service. They deserve the government officials working for them, not the other way around. then I'm like, well, guys, I didn't know I was going to get a yacht if I played along. So, like, Kennedy killed himself, Epstein killed himself, Hillary's innocent. Turns out nobody was on Epstein's list. Diddy is actually a good guy when you get down to it. 2020 election certainly looks good to me. COVID-19 vaccines, they were saving people's lives.
No, I just sent him a message.
Super yacht. Yeah. Oh, make sure to get your next booster. Super yacht for me? Yeah. That's great. By the way, climate change is really bad. All right. Can I get a Ferrari too? Stop eating meat. I love
Have you heard?
Ferraris.
Have you seen some of this dude's?
Yeah, that's great. Abortion's awesome. I love Ferraris. And I hate to be
Like
greedy. but
shorts
I've always
is fucking
wanted a
hilarious.
Lake house. What do you think about me getting a lake house? Yeah. Racism is the biggest threat to America. I love lake houses. Man, that's great. I'd like to think that's where I'd be within 3.5 days of holding a major position of power in the government. By the way, also Oklahoma City. I'm talking to you. I'm going to be in your neck of the woods in about a week and a half doing comedy shows at Bricktown Comedy Club, one of my favorite places to go. I believe the first time I was in there, I was fresh out of surgery off tore my patella tendon, did a patella tendon repair surgery. It was safe and effective. It was safe and sort of effective. Anyway, I was on crutches first time I was there. Been there.
I would take those, that plane load of those people right to Gitmo. Do you want to look at the stuff about the shooting in DC, or?
Yeah, let's check out the shooting in DC.
I'll put it in the private chat right now. I got 3 links for it.
You're fast, man. You are fast. This is live breaking report right here at Good Logic. Live breaking report. This just happened like moments ago. Moments ago. A horrific tragedy, apparently, from what we're initially told.
Yes. You could start with either the Lee Stefanik one or the Nick Sorter one. Either one, it doesn't really matter.
Okay.
I would the last one, the Jewish Insider.
Shooting outside a Jewish museum in Washington, D.C. is a heinous act of anti-Semitic murder and terrorism. U.S. law enforcement must use every tool at its disposal to investigate and prosecute these evil criminals. The U.S. has continued to stand with our most precious ally, Israel, and work to eradicate violent anti-Semitism raging in our streets around the world. This is the sort of thing which tells me, by the way, this sort of thing, I'm not even kidding, this sort of thing tells me I need to leave.
Need to leave where?
I'm not sure what you mean, JC.
What?
It failed you all.
Here.
The U.S.?
According says the word shit.
This is exactly what it Israeli diplomat has just been shot and killed outside Capitol Jewish Museum in D.C. Shooters screamed "Free Palestine" before assassinating the diplomat, per D.C. police. FBI and Pam Bondi are now on the scene.
Oh, sure.
This is horrifying.
I've not looked at X in at least 3 hours. You gotta make me look now.
As far as we know, the pyramids of the sun and moon do not have.
God forbid it was my family member there. They'd be the ones who are dead now.
However, a tunnel under the pyramid of the sun.
I don't know why the Democrats thought it was okay to let these people run around chanting all this stuff and taking over schools and lighting stuff on fire, and it was going to lead to this.
Situation is what
In a
it
Fox
is.
exclusive, you're watching an incredibly rare interaction as
I
the
don't know
jail
where
in
that
Los
is.
Angeles transfers an
You've got something playing.
I see it.
University, located in 2003.
You know what happened. You don't hear it now, right?
No, I don't hear it now. It must have been something playing on another tech somewhere that just auto-played.
I know what it is. It's still, sadly, it's still playing for me. It's not playing for any of you, but it's still playing for
More
me.
than 40 feet below ground was covered with
You know,
I'm over here.
Offerings placed before the entrance of third chambers.
All right, I got it.
End of the tag suggested these are tombs of the
Yeah, no, this sort of thing is like
hundreds of feet long, follows a route of symbols.
we'll never know the motivation.
Several sealed funeral chambers.
Yeah, we will. The guy yelled Allahu Akbar. Free
Yeah.
Palestine. I mean,
I think that's he's being sarcastic.
oh, okay.
He's being sarcastic.
What will they find when these
He's
tombs
being
are
sarcastic.
finally discovered?
I don't know if you don't need to leave the country, Joe. You just need to leave New Jersey and come down to Florida where you can arm yourself.
Yeah, my aunt recently moved to Israel, and she said the reason she moved there is because she said she looks at like what's going on in this country. She lived here her whole life, never, and she's like she looks at what's going on in the country, and she said, I often ask myself if I was alive in Germany in the 30s. Would I have had the foresight to leave?
There are as many theories for the
And
existence of all the pyramids.
I never knew, because like some Jews fled, they saw the writing on the wall and they fled, and others didn't. And she's like, I always wonder like which camp I would have been in. Like, no, it's gonna be okay, or the camp that's like the camp that's like, no, we're getting out of here now. And she's like, I always hoped I would be in the camp that would see the writing on the wall. And she moved a couple of years ago. She's like, I see the writing on the wall. I'm leaving. And I thought what she said was, I understood it on an emotional level, but I still thought that intellectually I was like, nah. You tell me now they're just starting to shoot Jews for being by a Jewish place. That's a sign.
Wins. Pause.
Tell me how I'm wrong.
No, you're not wrong. You're not wrong. I mean, is it safer? Is it safer in Israel than it is?
You know what? Press briefing coming. So sorry, Joe. Yeah, I appreciate you giving me the heads up, Tracy. Thank you. It's not even a matter of it's safer. It's not even a matter of that. It's more a matter of like
They know the risks there.
When a country is telling you they don't want you, what are you fighting for? This is why when I see the South Africans, the Boers, on the Boers, I'm just like, yeah, sometimes you gotta go. You know, I think if you're a white person living in South Africa, you could stand there on principle and say, hey, this is where my father, grandfather, great grandfather, the last 10 generations living here for plus 300 years, whatever. Okay, you can say that. Is that gonna help you if there's 1,000 people showing up on your farm with pitchforks? You'll be totally right. Is it helping any of those people in caskets? It's like at a certain point, you're just gonna say like, "What am I doing here? What am I doing?" Like if it's coming to that, I might as well go somewhere that people want me there. And I know that my chat here, they want me here. I understand that. And I'm not moving tomorrow, but I'm just saying I'm not telling you logic. You know, let's get out of here. But I would tell you that, like, you know, if the country basically comes to a place that this is something that's not breaking news, in that case, like, you sort of have to ask yourself, why would you say it? And that's just common sense. What's your nationality? Yeah, like your grandfather. Okay,
my grandmother, my father's mother, fled Poland in 1932.
So I'm saying is, if there was this growing hatred of Polish people, literally trying to kill them, it's like you'd be like, all right, why would I stay in a country? Do you think? I'll ask you this. Let's look at the white farmers. Do you think they should be staying in South Africa? They've been there for 10 generations. It's like 1600s, I think, they went down there, right?
Well, yeah, 1600s. I think they should get out now before.
Yeah, exactly.
Because the difference with them is they have nobody that has their back at all in that country. It's just them against the entire government. They're only. I mean, Numbers
She's saying
wise, they
it's-
probably
saying
numbers.
the government is against them. That's why.
Right, the government is against them. Numbers wise, there's probably. I mean, I don't know. Like, what's the Jewish population in the United States is what?
No, that you're
5%?
making a great point, Jim. You really are. And the reason you make a great point is because in Germany, the difference in Germany is the government was against the Jews.
Correct.
So that's really the writing on the wall. So you're saying South Africa is more similar to that because the government is against them.
I would say it's exactly the same. South Africa right now with the Boers or the farmers is the